Hey, beautiful, please consider subscribing to our channel if you've been enjoying these stories. Your support helps a lot. Aid us in reaching our goal of 1,000 subscribers.
The ship dropped out of hyperspace with a shudder, like it had passed through a ripple in time. Commander Rourke Hansen stood on the forward deck of the stalwart Pike, arms crossed, gaze fixed on the swirling blue and gold planet ahead. Zelvert 9. It spun in silence, cloaked in clouds, a jungle world never colonized and deliberately quarantined by 5 different galactic civilizations. The reason? A single archived message in a dozen alien tongues, etched into a drifting station that once orbited it. Do not land. The Carnix still lives. ***. Beside him, the gangly form of Drake's Veltoran twitched nervously. The Lenuri scientist's eye stalks were a pale green today, panic coloring for his kind. You said it was a minor energy signature, Rourke said, his voice gravel-lined and calm. Nothing about a death beast. Drake's fiddled with his data pad, his 6 fingers tapping faster than human eyes could follow. I did not lie, Commander. The readings were consistent with dormant tech. But this place is marked by the Galactic Concordat as an Omega-level biohazard. The Carnix isn't a myth. It's a reality that murdered 7 planets' worth of colonists. Behind them, Lieutenant Connors let out a low whistle. That's got to be some record. Interstellar genocide by a jungle dog. Sounds like the kind of bedtime story you tell to make sure your kids don't become xenobiologists. I don't have kids, Rourke said absently, watching the screen as atmospheric readings populated. Not anymore. A silence followed, short but weighty. Xiran 5, their recon drone AI, hovered down from the upper deck, rotating silently in midair. Its artificial voice clicked to life. Planetary conditions are within human survivability thresholds. Estimated survival rate against predator-class life forms? 18%. Sounds optimistic, Rourke murmured. Do not mock the math, Xiran 5 replied. I have included the chance of you successfully petting the predator. Connors chuckled. Is that a joke? Unclear. My humor settings are evolving. Drake's tendrils flared. Commander, I am officially requesting we abort the expedition. The Carnix was engineered by a warfaring species that vanished shortly after its creation. Every species that has attempted to study or contain it has suffered catastrophic loss. Even the Tharn Dominion sealed this system, and they enslaved black holes for sport. Rourke finally turned to him. And yet here we are. Yes. Why are we here? Rourke held up a small metallic shard. A piece of wreckage they'd found weeks ago, floating in an empty debris field. It bore the same markings as the warning satellite, and a recent energy trail. Because someone else came here. Recently. And didn't leave. Something, or someone woke up that signal. If it's just another lost science vessel, they'll need rescue. If it's more than that, you're going to try to leash the galaxy's most lethal predator. Rourke's jaw clenched slightly. No. I just want to know why something that deadly looks like it's been crying for 2,000 years. The ship breached the clouds, descending into emerald canopy and rolling mist. As the landing struts deployed with a hiss, the jungle below shimmered with dew and promise, and a deep, bone-scraping silence. No birdsong. No movement. Only the hum of alien wind through colossus trees. The drop hatch opened. Heat hit them instantly, thick, wet, and filled with the scent of rot and sap. Connor stepped out first, rifle at ease, eyes scanning. No signs of life. Not even bugs. Creepy, he muttered. Life is here, Drake said. Just hiding. From something higher on the food chain. Relax, Rourke said. We're higher than everything on this food chain. They moved into the green haze like ants beneath ancient pillars. Moss blanketed the world. Vines as thick as a man's arm curled from branch to branch. And every now and then, scorch marks. Old plasma burns. Melted steel half sunk in the dirt. What's this? Ramos asked, kneeling beside a skeletal frame. It was alien, 6-legged, exoskeletal, but fused with cybernetic armor plating. The metal was warped as if it had been melted from the inside out. Defense drone, Drake said grimly. Zachary design. Very advanced. It didn't malfunction, it screamed as it died. The deeper they went, the more bones they found. None were human. None recent. And all of them shared a common trait, claw marks, deep and surgical, like something with surgical precision, but primal fury had torn them apart. Hours passed. Rourke's crew, trained for stealth and recon, began to tense in that specific way soldiers do when the forest feels like it's watching back. Xiran 5 occasionally halted, rotating silently to face unseen points in the mist. Then the howl. It wasn't loud, but it carried. It moved through the air like a whisper made of knives. Ramos froze. Connors raised his rifle. Drake simply dropped to the ground and covered his face. Audio signature confirmed, Zirin 5 said flatly. Genetic match, 96.3% confidence. Carnix. They set up camp in a hollowed-out bunker, long overtaken by moss and vines but still structurally intact. Rourke sat against a cracked console, watching the firelight reflect in the glassy eyes of his men. No movement yet, Connors reported. But whatever's out there, it doesn't move like an animal. Too controlled. It's hunting, Drake's whispered. Not for food. For intruders. We're trespassing. Zirin 5 floated to Rourke's side, its sensors blinking. Commander, you were briefed on the Carnix. Biological muscle exceeds Terran grizzlies. Accelerated neural feedback. Reflex latency nearly zero. It is, by all statistical metrics, a perfect weapon. And yet it hasn't killed us. Yet. Rourke looked out into the trees. Something shifted. He didn't hear it, but he felt it. Like a ripple in the air. The way a forest stills when something enters it that doesn't belong. Then it stepped into view. It moved silently, a shadow against moss and bark, until it was only 15 meters away. Its form was massive, easily 3 meters tall at the shoulder, with muscle rolling like liquid under obsidian fur. Not fur, quill-like strands of some adaptive armor. Its head was wolf-like, elongated, but with eyes unlike any beast Rourke had ever seen. Gold. Intelligent. Not curious judging. Ramos raised his weapon. I have a clean shot. No, Rourke said quietly. What? Rourke took a step forward, lowering his rifle. If it wanted us dead, we'd already be dead. The Carnix didn't move. Its gaze locked with Rourke's. One blink. Then another. Its body relaxed a fraction. Then, to everyone's astonishment, it sat. Drake's made a choking noise in his throat. That's not submission. That's a behavioral decoy. It's toying with you. Connors muttered, or maybe it thinks he's the alpha. Rourke approached slowly, palms open. The Carnix didn't flinch. Its head tilted slightly like a dog trying to interpret a new sound. You're not just some death machine, are you? Rourke said quietly. The Carnix blinked again. Then it leaned forward and sniffed his outstretched hand. Everyone held their breath. Rourke exhaled. See, he said. Looks like a big puppy. In the silence that followed, even Zirin 5's processors hummed slower, as if stunned. Rourke turned, walking back to the bunker with the beast following behind him like a shadow. We are all going to die, Drake's muttered. Rourke sat back down by the fire. If it wanted us dead, it would have started with me. But it didn't. That says something. Yeah, Connors said, lowering his rifle. Says you're either blessed, or you just brought a goddamn nuke into camp wearing a collar. The fire cracked. The jungle whispered. And from the darkness beyond, unseen eyes blinked in unison. Goliath didn't leave. The Carnix, named by Rourke in that typical human instinct to domesticate with names, curled itself beside the bunker like a sentinel statue, unmoving but not asleep. Its golden eyes remained half-lidded, tracking motion, breath, even heartbeats. By morning, dew clung to its armored coat, yet it didn't shiver, didn't twitch. It had simply chosen to stay. Inside the bunker, no one had really slept. Connors brewed a cup of Sincf so bitter it could have burned through alloy plating. He offered one to Rourke, who took it without looking away from the creature outside. Still breathing, Connors said, peeking over his shoulder. Weirdest part is that it hasn't moved in hours. Sentinels don't nap, Rourke replied. They wait. Connors grunted. You think it sees us as a threat? No, said Rourke. If anything, I think it sees us as something it hasn't had in a long time, company. Drake's, still coiled in the corner like a furless cat, stared in unblinking terror at the reinforced glass wall between them and Goliath. His usual analytical mutterings had quieted into shallow breath counting. I analyzed the thermal signatures, he said finally, voice brittle. Its core temperature is lower than expected. Like it's conserving energy. Or sick. Ramos, who'd returned from his pre-dawn perimeter check, pulled off his cloak and tossed it onto a bench. Didn't see anything moving out there. Not even fungi growth patterns. It's like the jungle's afraid to grow near it. Rourke sipped his CAF. Or the jungle knows better. Zirin 5 floated down from a ceiling alcove. Behavioral pattern does not align with predator class aggression. No stalking. No feints. No show of dominance. It watches and waits but takes no action. Drake shook his head rapidly. That's how it starts. There are records, ancient ones. Whole outposts lulled into complacency, thinking the Karnics had bonded. Then one trigger and everything dies. Maybe, Rourke said. But maybe this one's different. That's not how species work, Drake snapped. This isn't a litter-trained house beast, Commander. This is engineered death, designed at the genetic level to end civilizations. There is no variation. It's built to win. Even engineered things can suffer, Rourke replied. Maybe even change. He stepped outside before Drakes could argue further. The air was thick and heavy, the kind of morning heat that made everything feel slow. Goliath's ears flicked once at his approach but otherwise didn't move. Rourke crouched slowly, knees popping. He wasn't as young as he used to be, and his armor servos only did so much. You followed us, he said. Could have stayed hidden. Could have ambushed us. But you didn't. Goliath blinked once, then let out a slow exhale through flared nostrils. You're not what they said you were, Rourke murmured. He reached out again, slower this time. The same way one might approach a wounded animal. No sudden moves. Goliath's head tilted, curious. Then finally, it leaned forward and nudged his palm with its snout. The surface was harder than expected, more like armored glass than flesh, but there was warmth beneath it. Behind him, Connors watched from the doorway. I swear one of these days it's gonna snap and swallow you whole. Then make sure the cameras are rolling, Rourke said. I always do. They set out again by midday. Goliath followed, silent and fluid, never more than 15 paces behind. It made no noise, left no scent, and somehow never disturbed the foliage. When they reached the ruins, the air felt colder, like the shadows stretched longer than they should. The structure ahead had once been an alien command nexus. Half of it was caved in, the other half scorched by something hotter than plasma. Rourke motioned for silence as they approached. Ramos scouted the entrance with his motion tracker. Clear. Inside, dust floated like frozen stars. Consoles were shattered. Skeletons lined the walls, some seated as if they'd simply accepted their fate when the end came. Drakes moved between them with reverent quiet, scanning, mumbling, logging everything. This is where they made it, he said at last. The Karnics. Look, genetic grow pods all destroyed. Some of them from the inside. There's claw scoring on the walls, but it's not chaotic. It's surgical. They didn't break out, Rourke said. They were released. Xeran 5 beeped, lights blinking red. Audio log detected. Old Dominion code. Power degraded but playable. A crackle filled the air. Then a voice. Male, deep, tinged with desperation. Project termination approved. All Karnics are to be neutralized. Repeat, neutralized. Emotional regression protocols failed. They've started forming bonds with handlers. One refused to execute a command protocol. Scientists report signs of grief, of empathy. We've made a mistake. This isn't a weapon anymore, it's becoming something else. If you hear this, do not activate it. Do not approach. It only wants to be seen. And that's when it learns how to lie. The log ended. Drakes' face had gone pale. They were trying to kill them. Not because they failed. Because they succeeded too well. They made a weapon that felt. Goliath padded softly into the room. He didn't growl. Didn't react. Just looked around, quietly as if remembering. It's not lying, Rourke said. It's remembering. Connors adjusted his grip on the rifle, eyes not leaving the creature. Still not exactly bedtime story material. No, Rourke agreed. But I've known soldiers who flinched at fireworks and cried when they lost a dog. Doesn't make them any less dangerous. Just makes them real. They camped that night beneath the broken dome of the lab. The stars above were different, strange constellations twisted through thick atmosphere. Goliath lay at the edge of the clearing, half in shadow. Xeran 5 hovered near Rourke. Analysis updated. Karnix shows no signs of subterfuge. Its behavioral profile aligns closer to orphan domestics than apex predators. Then why stay near us? Possibly imprinting. Possibly loneliness. Possibly hope. Ramos tossed another log into the fire. We gonna try and take it with us? We take anything that wants to come with us, Rourke said. Drakes flared in alarm. You cannot be serious. This is a galaxy-class threat. You want to adopt it? Rourke looked him in the eye. I was on Carthan 7. Lost 30 men in an hour to some harmless wildlife. I've seen ordinary things do terrible damage. And I've seen monsters show mercy. And if you're wrong? Then it'll be the last mistake I ever make. But I don't think I am. In the distance, somewhere deeper in the jungle, a low thrum started, Pulsing, mechanical, unnatural. Zirin 5 rotated to track the signal. Incoming ship. Military grade. Not Dominion. Connor snapped to alert. That's not a supply drop. No, Rourke said, rising. It's a hunter ship. Ramos checked his scanner. 5 biosigns. Light armor. Marked weapons. No IDs pinging. Bounty crew, Connors said. They heard the same signal we did. Goliath rose slowly, ears alert, gaze scanning the horizon. A low growl formed in its throat, less a sound, more a vibration through the earth. Rourke felt it in his boots. Everyone get ready, he said. We're not alone anymore. And for the first time since arriving, Goliath stepped in front of them. Not beside, not behind. In front. Like a shield. Like a guardian. The jungle wasn't silent anymore. It was waiting. The ship descended without subtlety. Its thrusters roared through the jungle canopy, igniting leaves into ash and sending frightened birds scattering in a desperate spiral of panic. Charred bark drifted like black snow as the craft settled into a clearing half a click from the team's makeshift camp. The vessel bore no insignia, its hull painted matte gray to swallow both light and morality. Rourke watched through binoculars, eyes narrowing. Mercenaries, he said. Standard guild issue, maybe X-Mil. They didn't even bother to spoof their emission signature. Connors lay beside him in the brush, rifle propped on a collapsed log. They're here for Goliath. No way they tracked us otherwise. Probably followed the same data trail we did, Rourke said. But they're not here to study. They're here to bag and tag. From behind, Ramos whispered, You want to ambush? Rourke shook his head. We don't know their gear yet. Let's observe first. They watched as the ship's side hatch hissed open. 5 figures emerged in full exo-rigged armor, helmets matte black with insect-like visors. Each bore high-yield particle rifles and shoulder-mounted drone scouts, which leapt into the air the moment boots hit dirt. No chatter between them. No hesitation. Professional. One of them, taller, broader, paused to scan the air with a multispectrum array. Rourke recognized the move. Recon lead. The man wasn't just sweeping for hostiles. He was hunting. Moments later, the recon pointed southeast, directly toward the ruined lab. Time's up, Rourke muttered. They know. Goliath waited back at camp. As the team returned, the creature rose slowly from its resting position, ears twitching, tail low and stiff. Its muscles tensed, but it didn't pace or growl. Drake stood farthest from it, eyes darting between the humans and the beast. You heard the thrusters. We must go. I'd evacuate. Let the bounty crew do what they came to do. They came to kill it, Connors said bluntly. Or worse, capture it. Exactly. Drake's voice cracked. And take the danger with them. Far away from this sector. Away from us. Rourke looked at him with something between disappointment and pity. You still don't get it. It's a Carnix, Commander. And we're not on its list. You said yourself, it hasn't attacked. It's shown restraint. It's followed us, warned us. It even put itself between us and whatever's out there. You're anthropomorphizing. Assigning motive where none exists. I'm recognizing behavior. It's more than instinct. It's choice. Zirin 5 hovered over the map projector, casting a blue grid onto the jungle floor. Enemy path intercepts this location in 16 minutes. Optimal tactical position is retreat with high ground defense. Low risk to team. 0 success probability for Goliath. Goliath stood near the edge of the projection field, eyes fixed on the trees beyond. It didn't flinch as the holographic enemy markers flickered through its body. Rourke walked up to the creature. They're coming. You know that. Goliath didn't move, but its head dipped slightly, ears flattening in a posture Rourke had seen before, resignation. They'll shoot first, he said. You'll defend yourself and they'll say it proved the threat. And the next ship won't be 5 mercs. It'll be a war fleet. Goliath turned its gaze to him. Those golden eyes shimmered with something that might have been fear, or maybe understanding. We're not running, Rourke said. Not unless you want to. Goliath took a single step forward and lowered its head, gently pressing its forehead into Rourke's chest. Connors exhaled. Well hell. That settles it. Ramos tightened the strap on his vest. Then let's make it hurt. They took positions near the lab's perimeter, old steel arches offering partial cover. Connors laid motion sensors in a fan pattern. Ramos and Rourke took overwatch on the ruined second floor. Zirin 5 began interfering with local radio frequencies, mimicking short bursts of jungle noise to confuse the incoming team's scanners. Goliath didn't hide. It lay in plain view like bait. It was Rourke's idea. Let them come. Let them think it's unaware. The second they step into firing range, we control the narrative. The first drone scout came over the ridge, its sensors sweeping. Zirin 5 intercepted it with a flash of EMP, sending it spiraling into the dirt with a metallic screech. That was the signal. The mercs surged forward, fanning out, covering angles with military precision. Rourke watched the lead man raise a rifle and take aim at Goliath's exposed flank. He didn't hesitate. Rourke's shot took the lead shoulder clean off. The man spun, crashing into a root with blood spraying in arcs. The clearing erupted in plasma fire as Connors and Ramos laid down overlapping suppressive fire. One merc tried to flank left. Goliath was on him in an instant. There was no roar, no theatrical leap. Just a blur of motion, a wet crunch and silence. The merc's body hit the ground in 2 places. The remaining 3 scattered. One went down under a proximity mine. The other 2 dove into foliage and opened fire on Goliath. The creature didn't flinch. It charged straight through the beam, armor smoking but intact, and slammed into one of the attackers with enough force to fold the man backward over a tree stump. The last merc, panicking, activated his evac beacon. A low whine built in the sky, their ship's retrieval signal. Rourke sighted him through his scope and hesitated. The man wasn't fighting anymore. He was running. Goliath, however, was still moving. "Stop," Rourke said quietly. Goliath froze mid-stride. "Let him go." The golden eyes met his. There was no rage in them. Just calculation. And then, just like that, Goliath turned away. The merc made it to the ridge, limping and wide-eyed. He vanished into the trees. The ship rose seconds later, engines keening. It didn't stay to recover the bodies. When the forest went quiet again, it felt heavier. The ground was scorched, trees shredded, blood pooling in the soil. Ramos muttered, "Guess that answers the question about whether it can kill." Rourke lowered his rifle. "Yeah. And whether it chooses to." They buried what was left of the mercs near the lab ruins. Drakes refused to help, but he didn't argue anymore. He sat on a rock near the perimeter, staring at Goliath as though the creature had become less real and more legend. Zirin 5 floated to Rourke's side. Combat profile updated. Karnix shows deliberate restraint. Target selection was tactical, not emotional. I know. I now assign it a 42% probability of choosing protection over aggression, given companionship bonds. That's a big shift. I learn. Goliath approached Rourke slowly, muzzle still streaked with blood. It lowered itself beside him, eyes drooping. Exhaustion radiated off its massive body. It hadn't sustained any fatal wounds, but it had burned energy and it had fought hard. "You didn't have to listen," Rourke said. "But you did." He rested a hand on its shoulder. The surface was cooling, its internal systems compensating. Drakes finally stood. He walked to them slowly, cautiously, arms stiff at his sides. "You understand what's happened here, don't you? This wasn't just a defense. This was a decision. That thing, Goliath, it didn't act like a predator. It acted like a soldier." Rourke nodded. "Because maybe that's what it was always meant to be. Not a weapon. Not a monster. Just something waiting for someone to give it purpose." "No one will believe this," Drakes whispered. "Not in the Concordat. Not in the Dominion. They'll see the footage and call it propaganda." "They can believe whatever they want," Rourke said. "But we were here. We saw it." Ramos kicked a shard of shattered rifle casing into a crater. "So what now? We wait for more hunters." "No," Rourke said. "We leave. No. This place is compromised. The signal's out. The only way Goliath survives is if we take him somewhere new." Connors raised an eyebrow. "You sure he wants to leave?" They all looked at Goliath. The creature stood slowly and walked to the edge of the clearing. For a moment, it stared back toward the forest. Then it turned around and walked directly to Rourke's side. Rourke didn't smile, but his eyes softened. He's made his choice. In the distance, a new signal lit up the atmosphere. Faint. Too faint for most sensors, but not for Zirin 5. "Long-range transmission detected," the drone said. "From where?" Rourke asked. Zirin 5 paused. "From orbit. Another ship has entered the system." "How long?" 18 hours. Rourke exhaled. "Then we move now." The fire was gone, the ruins fading behind them. But something older had been reignited, something not even war or extinction had managed to kill. Hope. They moved through the jungle at dawn, silent but not hurried. The air was thick with mist, trees looming like giants through the fog. Rourke led the way, machete cutting through vines with steady, methodical swings. Behind him, Ramos covered their rear while Connors scouted 30 meters ahead. Zirin 5 floated high overhead, rotating in gentle arcs, its sensors tuned to every possible frequency. Goliath kept to Rourke's left, never straying far. The creature moved with a grace that didn't match its size, its paws making no sound despite the damp foliage. It was alert but calm, its golden eyes scanning the horizon as if already anticipating what lay ahead. They were making for the canyon pass, an old Dominion extraction point Drakes had located on the ancient maps, half buried in overgrowth. If the data was accurate, there would be an emergency launch pad still operational beneath the cliff face, concealed beneath centuries of moss and collapse. They had 12 hours before the next ship reached orbit. As they pushed forward, Connors came to a halt at the edge of a collapsed ravine. He waved Rourke forward. "This is it," he said. "The map lines up. Should be a subdeck buried beneath this landslide." Rourke stepped beside him and looked down into the hollow. Half-buried machinery jutted from the dirt, blackened antennae, a shattered scaffold, the remains of a docking claw. But there, near the bottom, a faint blue light pulsed from a recessed panel. Drake slid down the slope with uncharacteristic speed, scanning the structure eagerly. "It's active. Minimal power but still receiving. There's a vault sequence locked in cryogenic mode. I can initiate reboots." "Do it," Rourke said. "We're not getting another chance." As Drake's worked, Rourke turned to the others. "Once we're in, we seal it behind us. That'll give us cover until the next atmospheric window. We'll send up Zirin 5 to ping a launch signal." Goliath stood at the top of the ravine, unmoving. "You coming?" Rourke asked. The Carnix didn't answer, but after a long pause, it descended the slope carefully and settled beside the hatch. It didn't like confined spaces, Rourke had noticed that. The open forest suited it. But it followed anyway. That was enough. Then the ground shook. It was subtle at first, a distant vibration. But it built rapidly, sending birds fleeing from the trees and water rippling in stagnant pools. Ramos crouched, hand on the soil. "Engines," he said. "Big ones. Landing thrusters. Something massive just broke orbit." Zirin 5 rotated, its light pulsing red. "Signal confirmed. Cruiser-class assault ship. Not mercenary. Dominion clearance code, likely falsified. Origin unknown." Rourke's jaw tightened. "They're not coming to talk." Drake's glanced up from the console. "If that ship's armed, it could glass this whole region." "They won't," Rourke said. "They want Goliath. Alive." The whine of drop pods echoed through the canyon. Seconds later, the sky lit with burning streaks as metallic capsules screamed toward the earth. One landed a kilometer west. Then another. Then 5 more. Connors cocked his rifle. "They're deploying an army." Rourke didn't move. His voice came low, measured. "Zirin 5, override the vault and engage internal lift. Get Drake's and the evac package to the subdeck. Connors, Ramos, you're with me. We hold this pass until they're clear." Goliath let out a low, rumbling sound. A growl? No. It was something more complex. A vibration filled with intent. Rourke turned to him. "This is your choice. If you go now, we can buy you time. If you stay..." Goliath stepped forward and placed its massive head against Rourke's shoulder. No fear. No hesitation. Just a soldier making a decision. When the first wave hit, it came like thunder. Armored soldiers in black impact suits stormed the ridge, rifles blazing plasma arcs. Connors dropped 2 before they even reached cover. Ramos detonated a mine beneath a cluster, sending limbs and armor flying in a wet spray. Goliath moved like liquid fury, bounding into their ranks with impossible speed. Its claws sheared through exoplates. Teeth tore through helmets. One soldier fired a point-blank round into its chest. Goliath barely flinched before snapping the man in half with a single motion. Rourke fired in short bursts, conserving ammo, his shots precise and brutal. He moved with purpose, never overextending, never wasting motion. They fought as a unit. Human and creature. Side by side. More pods slammed into the cliffs. More soldiers. Drones followed, hovering like wasps, unleashing stun pulses and sonic disruptors. Zirin 5 engaged them in midair, scattering them with calculated EMP bursts. But they were losing ground. Ramos took a hit to the leg and dropped. Connors dragged him back, firing one-handed as he moved. Goliath snarled and leapt over them, shielding their retreat with its massive body. The lift chamber opened behind them. Drake stood inside, waving frantically. "Now. We have to go. The power won't hold." Rourke slung Ramos over one shoulder and shoved Connors toward the hatch. Goliath backed in last, blood streaming down its flank. The door sealed shut. Below them, the lift descended into darkness. For a long moment, there was only silence, punctuated by the groan of ancient machinery and the rasp of labored breathing. Rourke leaned against the wall, soaked in sweat and blood. Not all of it his. Connors slumped beside him. Tell me that was the worst of it. It wasn't, Rourke said. But it was the start of something else. Drake stepped forward, holding a small device, an encoded transmitter. This contains the full data set. Video, telemetry, everything. Proof of what happened. What Goliath did. What he didn't do. We'll need to get it out, system, Rourke said. Broadcast to every neutral relay we can reach. Let the galaxy see the truth. And if they don't care? Drake asked. Rourke looked down at Goliath, who lay resting, eyes half closed, body still but alert. Then we protect him anyway. Above them the sky burned. The Dominion ship circled like a vulture, scanning for targets, unaware that its prize had already slipped below the Earth. But Rourke knew they hadn't seen the last of it. This wasn't over. The galaxy feared what it didn't understand. And they didn't understand Goliath, not yet. But they would. Because monsters didn't protect. Weapons didn't choose mercy. And predators didn't rest their heads on a soldier's lap after saving his life. Rourke reached down and ran a hand along Goliath's brow. The creature let out a soft breath, not quite a purr but close. They made you a killer, Rourke said quietly. But you made yourself something else. Goliath closed its eyes. Somewhere deep in the jungle above, the last of the enemy searched in vain. And below, in the buried quiet, something old and dangerous finally found peace.